Stop what you're doing, because what I'm about to tell you might be the biggest story coming out of Cleveland in years. NFL insider Ross Tucker just lit the football world on fire, and he didn't do it with some vague rumor or clickbait headline. No, he revealed an actual, detailed $32 million secret plan for Shadier Sanders that the Cleveland Browns never intended for the public to hear about. And once you hear the details, you're going to see the Browns in a completely different light. Picture this, it's a quiet Saturday production meeting. Most people think it's just another routine pregame prep session, but then Kevin Stefanski, calm, collected, drops a bombshell to the crew. He doesn't just talk about rookie quarterbacks in passing. He reveals that Cleveland has what he calls a minute-by-minute plan for Shadier Sanders and Dillon Gabriel. Not a general outline, not a rough idea, a literal schedule that tracks their development down to the exact rep count. Think about how insane that is for a second. We're talking about the Browns, a franchise notorious for quarterback chaos, for constantly hitting the reset button, suddenly operating like a precision-run Fortune 500 company. Tucker couldn't believe it himself. He went on air and basically said, "You guys have no idea what's happening behind closed doors in Cleveland." And here, where it gets even crazier, all those reports you heard about Shadier not even getting scout team reps, completely false. Tucker revealed something called the Shadier period, a special dedicated window of practice just for him. Imagine the cameras are off, media has left, teammates are in the locker room, and there's Shadier, still on the field, getting 8 to 10 extra reps. Just him, the coaches, and a plan that screams future franchise quarterback. This isn't just development. This is a statement. Cleveland is telling the league, we know exactly what we have, and we're going to make sure he succeeds. And if they're right, this could go down as one of the smartest moves in franchise history. The moment the Browns stopped being a punchline and started playing chess while the rest of the league played checkers. To really understand why this Ross Tucker revelation is such a big deal, you've got to go back and look at the Cleveland Browns' history with quarterbacks. And let's be honest, it's been rough. For decades, Cleveland has been the place where quarterbacks go to disappear. The jersey with all the names of failed starters. It's practically a tourist attraction. From Tim Couch to Johnny Manziel to Deshaun Kaiser, the Browns have been through more quarterbacks than most teams have playoff appearances. This isn't just bad luck. It's been a revolving door of front offices, head coaches, offensive coordinators, and philosophies. Every time a new regime came in, they pressed reset, drafted another franchise guy, and sold fans the same hope-filled story. And almost every time it ended in disappointment. Even when they finally landed Deshaun Watson in a blockbuster trade, it came with massive controversy, a fully guaranteed $230 million contract, and constant questions about whether he'd ever return to Pro Bowl form. That deal was supposed to end the quarterback curse once and for all, but instead, it's kept Cleveland stuck in limbo, wondering if their all-in gamble will ever pay off. That's why what Ross Tucker said matters so much. Because for once, this doesn't sound like the Browns were used to. This doesn't sound like desperation. It sounds like a plan, a real, detailed, long-term plan. And that's something Cleveland hasn't had in a very, very long time. Fans have been through enough heartbreak to know that hype means nothing without execution. They've seen draft busts, coaching blunders, and front office meltdowns. But they've also seen what happens when this city actually gets behind a winner. Look no further than the 2016 Cavaliers or the energy during the 2020 playoff run. So imagine what happens if the Browns actually get this right. Imagine if this minute-by-minute development plan turns Shadier Sanders into the quarterback Cleveland has been searching for since the franchise came back in 1999. That's not just a win for the team, that's a cultural shift. That's hope for a city that's been waiting for decades to believe again. Here, where everything changes, Ross Tucker didn't just casually mention this plan on air. He dropped it like a live grenade in the middle of Cleveland sports talk. During his segment on 92.3, The Fan, Tucker started out breaking down the Browns' rookie class, which he said was one of the most impressive he's seen in years. But then he pivoted to the quarterbacks, and that's when he revealed the piece of intel that's got the entire league buzzing. According to Tucker, Kevin Stefanski and the Browns have a minute-by-minute plan for Shadier Sanders and Dillon Gabriel. That's not an exaggeration. Tucker literally said this plan is detailed down to the exact timing of every rep, every drill, every developmental checkpoint. And if you know anything about the Browns' history, you know how unheard of that level of structure is for this franchise. But it didn't stop there. Tucker went on to debunk one of the biggest narratives floating around, that Shadier wasn't even getting scout team reps. In fact, Tucker revealed something so specific it almost sounds made up. Cleveland has created something called the Shadier period. It's a special, dedicated block of time after practice where Sanders gets 8 to 10 extra reps, one-on-one with coaches. No cameras, no reporters, just pure, focused development. That's not something you do for a guy you see as a career backup. That's something you do when you believe you've got your quarterback of the future and you want to accelerate his growth as quickly as possible. Tucker's tone said it all. This isn't the same old Browns. This isn't, let's throw him in if the starter gets hurt and hope for the best. This is Cleveland quietly playing the long game, preparing Sanders to be more than just a name on the depth chart. And here's the kicker. Tucker connected this entire plan to the 2026 quarterback draft class, hinting that the Browns may have just outsmarted everyone by grabbing their guy early. If Shadier develops the way they expect, this could go down as one of the biggest draft steals of the decade. Now let's zoom in on the most fascinating part of Ross Tucker's revelation, the Shadier period. This isn't just a catchy name. This is a real, intentional, carefully crafted part of Cleveland Browns practice that almost nobody outside the building even knew existed until Tucker spilled it on air. Picture this, practice has wrapped up. Most of the players are already heading back to the locker room, joking with each other, grabbing water, thinking about lunch. The beat reporters have packed up their cameras and tripods, ready to head back to the station and cut their highlights. But one person stays behind. There's Shadier Sanders, helmet still on, standing at the 20-yard line. Around him are a handful of coaches, QB coach, assistant offensive coordinator, maybe even Stefanski himself, and they're setting up for extra work. The entire field is quiet now, no crowd noise, no teammates running routes except the ones specifically chosen to be there. Then it begins. 8 to 10 extra reps, laser-focused on timing, mechanics, decision-making. Maybe it's a quick slant drill to work on footwork. Maybe it's a red zone progression drill, forcing him to hit his third read under pressure. Every throw matters. Every mistake gets corrected in real time. And this isn't once a week. This is every practice. A built-in, non-negotiable time slot just for Shadier's growth. That's why Tucker's revelation matters so much, because it tells us exactly how the Browns view him. They don't see him as a developmental afterthought. They see him as a long-term investment. The beauty of the Shadier period is that it's happening away from the public eye. There's no outside pressure, no media second-guessing every throw, no Twitter clips going viral if he misses a pass. It's just Shadier and the Browns staff, building chemistry and confidence brick by brick. This is what championship organizations do. They carve out intentional development time for their future stars. They create controlled environments to teach, correct, and refine. And the fact that Cleveland, the franchise that's been the punchline of QB jokes for 2 decades, is now doing this, that should make the entire league sit up and pay attention. While the Shadier period has stolen the headlines, Ross Tucker made one thing very clear. This isn't just a one-man project. Dillon Gabriel is a key piece of Cleveland's master plan, and the way they're managing him shows just how calculated this entire operation really is. Gabriel isn't just sitting around holding a clipboard. He's getting meaningful reps, learning the system, and preparing to step in if Deshaun Watson struggles or misses time. The Browns have built a system where Gabriel functions as the now insurance policy, the guy who can keep the offense afloat if something goes wrong, while Shadier is clearly being groomed as the future. Think of it like a chessboard. Gabriel is the knight, the piece you can use right now to protect the king and move the offense forward. Shadier is the queen, the most powerful piece, but you don't unleash her until the timing is perfect. This dual-track approach is brilliant. It means the Browns don't have to rush Shadier into action before he's ready. They can let him develop at his own pace, knowing that Gabriel can handle spot duty if needed. And at the same time, It gives Shadier a living, breathing example of what it looks like to prepare like a professional, to be one snap away from playing meaningful NFL football. Gabriel's role also keeps the locker room balanced. He's experienced, he's respected, and he understands that this is a business. Having him in the room helps take pressure off Shadier, so the rookie doesn't feel like he's carrying the entire future of the franchise on his shoulders. Ross Tucker hinted that Cleveland is treating this situation like a slow-cooked meal, not fast food. They're layering reps, building confidence, and ensuring both quarterbacks are ready for whatever 2025 throws at them. That kind of patience is rare in today's NFL, where teams panic and make impulsive moves at the first sign of trouble. The Browns aren't panicking. They're planning. And if this quarterback room plays out the way they think it will, they could have the perfect transition from Watson to their next franchise star without ever hitting reset. Ross Tucker didn't hold back when he shifted the conversation to the 2026 quarterback class, and what he said should make Browns fans feel even better about what their team is doing. Everyone has been hyping this class for over a year. Arch Manning at Texas, Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, Drew Aller at Penn State. These guys were supposed to be the next wave of elite quarterbacks, the ones destined to go in the top 10 and change franchises. But Tucker, who watches hours of film every single week, dropped a truth bomb that most analysts are too scared to say. None of them are really playing that well. Arch Manning, the golden boy with the golden last name, has been called a major disappointment by Tucker. Instead of dominating, he's struggling to put together consistent drives and looks overwhelmed against top competition. Nussmeier, Tucker brought up a recent game where he threw an interception so baffling that it left analysts scratching their heads. And Drew Aller, a guy who was supposed to be Penn State's savior, has been, in Tucker's words, just okay. He's got the size and arm strength, sure, but where's the production? Where's the big game magic you need from a franchise quarterback? This is exactly why Cleveland's plan makes sense. Instead of waiting until 2026 and hoping they land one of these can't-miss prospects, the Browns quietly grabbed Shadier Sanders in the 5th round and built a custom development plan around him. They're essentially a full year ahead of everyone else, giving Shadier real NFL coaching, real reps, and real growth while this so-called elite class is still trying to figure out college defenses. If Tucker is right, and history says he usually is, this 2026 class might be one of the most overhyped in recent memory. And by the time these quarterbacks finally get to the league, Shadier could already be leading Cleveland's offense with 2 years of experience under his belt. That's not just good scouting, that's future-proofing your franchise. To really appreciate what the Browns are doing, you have to understand why Shadier Sanders was even available in the 5th round in the first place. Let's be clear, this wasn't about talent. Shadier has been one of the most accurate, composed quarterbacks in college football since his days at Jackson State. His arm talent, decision-making, and ability to perform under pressure have been consistent at every level. So why did he slide? Because the NFL, like any major institution, is influenced by politics, perception, and narrative. Some scouts couldn't separate Shadier from the noise surrounding his father, Deion Sanders. They worried about media attention, about personality clashes, about whether drafting Shadier meant signing up for constant headlines. In a league obsessed with distraction-free environments, some front offices saw him as too big of a spotlight risk. Then there's the small school bias. Even after transferring to Colorado and performing well against top competition, some decision-makers still labeled him a system quarterback who hadn't faced enough NFL-level defenses. It's the same tired narrative that has caused countless talented players from HBCUs and non-traditional powerhouses to get overlooked. But Cleveland saw through it. Instead of worrying about how many cameras would show up to training camp, they looked at the tape. They saw a quarterback who elevated Jackson State into a winner and dragged Colorado from irrelevance into national conversation. They saw leadership, poise, and a football IQ that doesn't show up on a spreadsheet. This is where the politics of the draft worked in the Browns' favor. While other teams were overthinking it, Cleveland pounced. They turned league-wide hesitation into a bargain, landing a player with first- or second-round ability at a 5th-round price tag. That's the kind of move that doesn't just improve your roster, It changes the trajectory of your franchise. And now, with their minute-by-minute plan, they're proving that this wasn't a gamble. This was a calculated bet that Shadier could be the guy if given the right support and development. The Browns didn't just find value, they found a potential franchise quarterback hiding in plain sight. If you zoom out for a second, you'll see that Cleveland's plan for Shadier Sanders is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle, and that's what makes this so exciting. This isn't just about a quarterback. This is about a franchise quietly constructing a roster that's designed to compete for years, not just for a single playoff run. Ross Tucker pointed out that the Browns' entire 2024 rookie class looks like one of the best in the league. Isaiah Bond is already flashing big play ability at wide receiver, giving them a vertical threat they've lacked. Mason Graham is making noise on the defensive line, looking like a future anchor for that front seven. Even their mid-round picks like Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong are providing depth and explosiveness in the backfield. Put this together with what they're doing at quarterback, and it becomes clear. Cleveland is playing the long game. They're not just building around Deshaun Watson and hoping he carries them. They're preparing for a seamless transition if he doesn't. Shadier isn't just getting developed. He's being paired with a young supporting cast that will grow with him. This is how sustainable contenders are built. Look at the Chiefs, the Bengals, the 49ers. The common denominator is that they built a core of young players who could peak together. Cleveland seems to finally be doing the same thing. And what's maybe most impressive is how quiet this has been. There hasn't been some big PR splash or over-the-top hype campaign. The Browns are letting their work speak for itself. While national media focuses on other storylines, Cleveland is stacking practices, stacking development, stacking wins. If this plan hits the way they expect, the Browns could transition from being a team constantly searching for stability to one of the NFL's most consistent threats. Imagine a Cleveland roster where Shadier Sanders, Isaiah Bond, Mason Graham, and a core of young playmakers are all entering their prime at the same time. That's not just a good team, that's a window for a potential Super Bowl run. If you're a Browns fan, this is where things get exciting, because Cleveland's long-term plan isn't just about internal growth. It's about changing the entire balance of power in the AFC North. For years, the division has been a two-team race between Baltimore and Cincinnati, with Pittsburgh always hanging around as a tough out. Cleveland. Too often, they were the team just trying to survive. But if this plan works, that narrative could flip completely. Imagine a scenario 2 years from now where Shadier Sanders is the starter, fully comfortable in the offense, surrounded by a young core that's grown together. Isaiah Bond and Amari Cooper, or his successor, on the outside, Nick Chubb's eventual replacement in the backfield, and a defense anchored by Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward still in their primes. That's not a team trying to keep up, that's a team setting the pace. Baltimore and Cincinnati won't just see Cleveland as a nuisance. They'll have to treat them as a legitimate threat to win the division. And that matters, because winning the AFC North usually means a top playoff seed and a real shot at the Super Bowl. It also means Cleveland could finally break free from the cycle of constant quarterback resets. For decades, they've been chasing the guy, burning draft picks, cap space, and patience in the process. This plan, grabbing Shadier, developing him slowly, and pairing him with a core of playmakers, is their chance to end that cycle once and for all. Ross Tucker said it best. The Browns aren't just reacting anymore, they're anticipating. They're thinking years ahead. And if you're a fan, that should give you hope that the frustrating, chaotic version of this franchise might finally be gone. If Cleveland can stay patient, keep this roster together, and resist the temptation to rush the process, they could be building something that lasts far longer than one playoff run. They could be building a contender that owns this division for the next decade. Cleveland isn't just playing a long game for themselves, they're quietly setting a trap for the entire NFL. If Shadier Sanders develops the way the Browns hope, the ripple effects across the league could be massive. Other teams spent high draft picks on quarterbacks like Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, and Drew Aller, expecting instant returns. Meanwhile, a fifth-round pick is quietly running laps around them in terms of experience, coaching, and preparation. Imagine the front offices in Kansas City, Dallas, or Miami realizing that the guy they passed on is already a step ahead, learning an NFL system, reading defenses like a veteran, and building chemistry with his team. By the time these overhyped 2026 prospects get drafted, Shadier could already be leading the Browns to wins, making playoff pushes, and showing the league what a true franchise quarterback looks like. This isn't just about performance on the field, it's about perception. Analysts, draft scouts, and executives will have to confront the reality that hype and pedigree don't always equal talent. Shadier's rise could force a shift in how teams evaluate quarterbacks, especially players from non-traditional programs or smaller schools. The NFL might finally be reminded that skill, leadership, and football IQ matter more than name recognition or media narratives. And let's not forget the media. For years, networks have sold stories about the next Manning or the can't-miss prospect, creating mountains of expectation around these players. If Shadier surpasses them, the headlines will flip overnight. Teams will be scrutinized for missing him in the draft, and Cleveland will quietly take credit for seeing what everyone else overlooked. The real genius of the Browns' approach is timing. They didn't wait for the hype cycle to hit. They didn't chase a flashy name. They built their quarterback from the ground up, and by the time the league catches on, Cleveland could be sitting at the top of the AFC, laughing all the way to playoff seeding. In short, the league-wide fallout isn't hypothetical. It's inevitable if Shadier fulfills his potential. The Browns aren't just developing a quarterback, they're sending a message. Patience, insight, and preparation will always beat hype and convention. Here's the truth. What Cleveland is doing with Shadier Sanders isn't just smart football. It's revolutionary. For years, Browns fans have suffered through disappointment, quarterback chaos, and seasons that ended with more questions than answers. But now, for the first time in decades, there's a plan. A real minute-by-minute blueprint designed to develop a franchise quarterback while building a young, talented roster around him. Ross Tucker's revelation about the Shadier period gave us a peek behind the curtain, 8 to 10 extra reps, focused, deliberate, uninterrupted development, away from cameras and media noise. That's not just training. That's precision. That's patience. That's Cleveland finally acting like the championship organization it's capable of being. And the implications go far beyond Cleveland. By the time the 2026 quarterback class hits the NFL, Shadier could already have years of professional experience, chemistry with his receivers, and mastery of an NFL system. Meanwhile, the so-called top prospects will be scrambling to catch up. Teams that passed on him will be forced to reckon with one harsh reality. Hype and pedigree don't always equal talent. This is more than just a story about a player or a team. It's about vision, courage, and the willingness to go against conventional wisdom. The Browns didn't chase the narrative. They ignored the noise. They saw a quarterback who was undervalued, overlooked, and dismissed, and they committed to him fully. Fans, this is your moment. Imagine sitting in First Energy Stadium 2 years from now, watching Shadier orchestrate an offense with poise, confidence, and clutch performance. Imagine a Browns team that doesn't just compete, but dominates the AFC North, a roster of young stars peaking together. This is the type of future you've been waiting decades to see. So here's the takeaway. The Browns' secret plan isn't just about developing a quarterback. It's about rewriting the franchise narrative. It's about proving that careful planning, dedication, and belief in overlooked talent can change everything. Shadier Sanders might be the key to a Cleveland renaissance, and the rest of the NFL is about to watch in real time as the fifth-round steal of the century turns into the franchise leader of tomorrow. Don't blink, the Browns aren't just building a team. They're building history. And if you want to witness it from the beginning, now's the time to pay attention.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.